Welcome back, everyone, to Spyro Reignited Trilogy. We're still on the first Spyro, and today we're doing the fourth world, the Beast Makers, which, as I mentioned towards the end of the Magic Crafters, is actually my least favorite. But that doesn't mean there aren't still some good moments here. In particular, I actually really like the enemies. Some of the enemies that are here in the Beast Makers, like these Norks that will electrify the floor beneath them. That's pretty cool. And also, some of them, I don't know if this was only in the PS1 version, but some of them wear shades, or sunglasses, as some will call them, which is also pretty stinking cool. We're going to need 50 dragons in order to reach the next world, which is, one of the last ones. But you may notice that there's a lower dragon count than usual for Beast Makers.
Nasty Nork is turning our swamp into an electrified jump heap. And it used to be so beautiful.
I'm sure it was.
And you'll notice that all the dragons will talk like they're from Louisiana or something like that. So, that's interesting, I guess. But it kind of makes sense because Louisiana, apparently, I think they're known for their swamps. And the Beastmaker's world is clearly based on a swamp. Some people may think of Shrek when they think about swamps because, you know, in the movie, Shrek was like, "Get out of my swamp!" But, no, Shrek is an ogre, but that has nothing to do with Louisiana. There isn't really much crossover there. Now, if you are looking for a movie that's a little bit more relevant to that type of discussion, I highly recommend Disney's The Princess and the Frog. I think that's on Disney+. You'll have to double check on that one. But anyway, without further ado, let's do the first proper level just to get out of the way because Terrace Village, honestly, is kind of a vanilla level compared to a lot of the other ones thus far. So yeah, welcome to Terrace Village. This is the least interesting of the three main levels here in Beast Makers, but it's still kind of okay. Again, particularly with the enemies. Now we have a giant electric Nork. They can be very dangerous if you're not careful. So, you know, if there's one thing Beast Makers does over the first three worlds is that it definitely ramps up the difficulty, arguably the most of all the worlds thus far. Now we also have electrified Norks wearing armor. More armor than usual, I guess you could say. No, I don't know. In the PS1 version, I find that the way that the metal Norks look almost reminds me of Clank from the Ratchet & Clank series, which might be intentional, but who knows, because the original Spyro games were made by the same developers that made most of the Ratchet & Clank games, Insomniac Games. They were only just fairly recently purchased by Sony, though. Back when they were working on Spyro and a lot of the earlier Ratchet & Clanks, they were still an independent studio, interestingly enough. And yeah, if there's one thing I could say about Terrace Village is that sometimes you'll have a tough time defeating all the enemies because they can be tough. And let me tell you, if you lose a life on any of the levels in Beast Makers, I wouldn't really blame you. Also, I said three main levels, but honestly, with the way the boss level works here, that almost does feel like a fourth level. You know, I mentioned this in Blowhard, but as we go further into the game, the boss levels are going to be more and more fleshed out. To the point that by the time we get to the last regular boss level that isn't the final boss, it's more level than it is boss level, which I'm sure you'll notice when we get there, because it's not going to be too far from now for sure, since we're almost at the end here at Beast Makers. But yeah, and Terrace Village is like the first level in a while where it just feels really, you know, kind of vanilla, aside from the enemies, of course. Not even the music track is really all that great. It's not bad, but it's more, it might be more of an atmospheric kind of thing, which I guess kind of makes sense because with the original Crash games, I felt like the original Crash had the most atmospheric soundtrack of them all. But honestly, you can't go wrong with any of the soundtracks of the Spyro games. They're all great. Stuart Copeland is such a great composer, it's not even funny. Like, I want to say the Spyro games have some of the best soundtracks for the PS1 games. They're the only other game I can think of that has a soundtrack that maybe even comes close would be the original Ape Escape. which I've actually already done a Let's Play for, so maybe you should check that out, huh?
Watch out, Spyro. The Norks in these parts have discovered the power of electricity, and it really stings.
And it really stings. You gotta love how they say that. There are still some hilarious dragons here in Beastmakers, but because there aren't as many of them, you're not gonna get as exposed to it, I guess you could say. Which is a shame. It's a shame that there's less dragons to rescue in Beastmakers, which does mean less dialogue to read. The world after this will probably make up for this somewhat, but we're gonna have to wait and see on that one. I have to imagine the reason they went for less dragons is because of the dragon requirement to get to the next world. They want to make players give them a reason to actually want to go for all the dragons here in Beastmakers, but I already said that this was going to be a 100% playthrough. Probably the exception to the rule for most of my live Let's Plays, since I usually just want to do any percent and be done with it. How did I get hit there? I guess it must have been a stray electric bolt from one of the metal electric Norks, not the regular ones that just looked like they were wearing a backpack of sorts. Alright, here's what we're gonna do. And I just remembered, I think there's a skill point for going through the entire level without getting hit by the electrified floor. I'm gonna double check on that for you guys' sake, and yeah, that's the case. The only other skill point is going to be on the boss level, which is called Metalhead, which is not as much of a spoiler as you might think, considering a lot of the enemies we've been dealing with thus far could definitely fit the description of a metalhead. Am I right? Or am I right? Hey, yeah, I know I'm right. For the most part. Oh god. Oh god, camera was messing with me a little bit there. It is cool that the enemies can actually kill fodder for you, though. And by cool, I mean totally coincidental. I don't remember. Whoa! Whoa, whoa, whoa! Calm down, Nord. You should not have been able to hit me like that. That was very rude. And unwarranted. I'm just used to... Oh, look at that. There's a sign over there that says no skydiving. Why would it say no skydiving when you can't skydive in the original Spyro? I don't get it. But it's pretty cool that they threw in that Easter egg of sorts, I guess you could say. I think this is the dragon that's arguably one of the most hilarious ones to rescue in Beastmakers. I think.
Good job, Spyro. One day you'll be able to tell all the dragons about your amazing adventures.
Sure, but what I'd really like to do is get out of this swamp.
Looks like Spyro watched Shrek as well. Since the original game, I guess. Get out of this swamp, darn it! But yeah, that's the dragon that when you rescue him, he's just laying on the floor and gives a really passive statement. Definitely one of the funnier dragons in the game. Yeah, I guess you could say it's a quality over quantity kind of thing with the dragons you rescue in Beastmakers. Oh god, this looks tough. Alright, bada bing, bada bing, bada bing, bada bing. Don't try to flame that last Nork. I don't think you're gonna make it if you do that, unfortunately. You're pretty much just gonna have to bum rush it. Literally, since that's what you do with charging of the dragon's horns, don't you know? And don't forget, no skydiving, good lord. I want to say they should have put no entry or something like that. And there's actually another swamp level in a later Spyro game that has a sign that says, that warns about piranhas. They probably could have done that, and it would have been a nice retroactive Easter egg, honestly, but it is what it is. There is a skill point for doing this level without getting hit by the electric floor. Probably not get hit. Just to be safe, I wouldn't try to get hit at all if you're going for that skill point. Yeah, just be on the safe side. There's the exit portal, but there's still a good bit more exploration to do here. Want to see if maybe this looks like it's gonna be tough to aim. See if I can hit that Nork, and you can. Nice. All right. Well, it's really hard to aim it like that, but there you go. It is possible to kill that Nork with that spinning disc thingamajig. All right, we're gonna have another fairly tricky glide here. I'm surprised I'm using the charge so much for glides, because I could swear with the PS1 game physics, if you tried to charge and then glide, it usually wouldn't work out too well. Except in the PS1 version of Spyro 2, because there's a glitch involving jumping while charging and gliding, as I recall. called the double jump glitch. It's a pretty interesting glitch, to say the least, and I guess that's one motivating factor for people to go back to the older versions of these games, is that some of them have sequence breaks and glitches that can only be performed in those original versions. But for the most part, though, I would still say if you're trying to get into the series, you know, just get reignited. Because for the most part, these games are the definitive versions. I mean, yeah, glitches are cool, and I mean, some of the graphics are really great for PlayStation 1 standards, but they're still really blocky, you know? I kid you not, there was this one time I was playing The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time on an emulator. Like, yeah, where else would I be playing it, since I usually play games to record them for my a YouTube channel, right? So I was playing Ocarina of Time, and some kid was over, one of my friend's kids, I guess you could say, because he was my roommate at the time, but that's a whole another story that's not even worth going into. But there was this kid, and they saw me playing Ocarina of Time, and the question they asked me is that Minecraft? Wait, I got the skill point? Huh. I guess you get the skill point for just avoiding the electric floors. Okay. But I got hit by the enemies. Okay. Fair compromise. I'm glad I could get that skill point. I was. But anyways, that whole Minecraft debacle behind me, we only need to get one more dragon and we can move on to the next world. But I have to get everything in this world first before I move on, because this is a 100% playthrough, don't you know? Alright, so there's the next regular level, Misty Bog. I'm not too enthusiastic about it though, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Oh, and there isn't a skill point per se, but there is a trophy or achievement, depending on which version of the game you're playing, where there's a bunch of those blue glowing mushrooms around here, and you have to track them all down and flame them and destroy them. And you get a trophy or achievement for it, depending on the version of the game you're playing. But there isn't a skill point for it, oddly enough. As you can see from the list, there's only skill points for Terrace Village and Metalhead. Oddly enough. I don't know why it's like that, but it's a thing. I think there's one other skill point or trophy that's like that I can think of. Maybe. But anyway, we're gonna go down this well, because there's some gems here, and another portal, and this takes us to another flight level. Ah, wild flight. I guess we're fixing to go on a wild flight of fancy. Ho-ho! Yeah, anyway, we're gonna knock this out real quick, because this is... it's either an easy one or a hard one, depending on how you look at it. Yeah, I swear to God, man, the physics in the flight levels in Reignited, they just feel worse to me. I can't say that they're objectively worse, because that could just be, you know, me being used to the old games, but I don't know. I just feel like the PS1 versions had better physics. It's not a game breaker. I don't think it's a game breaker, especially if you've never played the originals, but it's still kind of annoying, you know? Let's get the chest, be out of this section. Where is the other chest, though? Did I get all the chests? Maybe it's back here. Maybe the other one is back over here. There we go. Find myself having to use the action button to drop down and stop my flight so much more often here in Reignited, but... Alright, we got the arches and we got the boats. It seems like I might be able to take my time a little bit here. That sort of thing. Don't really have to rush it as much, I guess, but... The chests and the planes are probably a little bit tougher to get, but sometimes when you're going for the boats, it's very easy to run into the water and drown prematurely. I couldn't tell you how many times that happened to me in my many runs of this level. And many other levels in Spyro, of course. Let's loop back around and get this arch, and hope I run into that boat here shortly, and BAM! Close call. I'm glad that only took 2 tries. Good lord. Seems to be a recurring theme. But there's only one more flight level. Well, technically 2, but only one like this. So, that should be relatively quick and painless when we get to it. The next one is actually the easiest one. I would be surprised if I messed it up for any reason other than the reignited physics. Alright, so I think I missed a dragon up here. I guess this dragon will be dragon number 50. So we're gonna get this guy, and hey, we'll be ready to go to the next world. Well, for those of you watching and playing along, you can. I'm gonna be sticking around a while, though. Cletus.
Spyro, it's great to see you, but I gotta go.
That's another good dragon here. Spyro, it's great to see you, but I gotta go. Speaking of which, we gotta go to Misty Bog, one of the most infamous levels in the original Spyro. Oh man. So why is this level so infamous, you might be asking or wondering? It's pretty much entirely down to the enemy types that you'll be dealing with here. Going into this with full sparks is required, practically. But that doesn't mean that this level isn't interesting. Actually, of the 3 main levels here in Beastmakers, this is probably my favorite one, honestly. Because I've gotten used to the enemies in a way. They don't bother me as much as they used to. Good lord, that tree almost ate me up. But yeah, the trees are out to get you. They'll eat you and chew you up and spit you out. I'm not kidding. I don't want to show that off if I can help it. You have to deal with those guys, and you also have to deal with these things called attack frogs. Alright. I think they might be called there might be another word there, but attack frogs. Alright, look at this frog over here. He's just standing there. Charging in flame. Okay. There's another one. There. Bam! I think they might have been slightly nerfed because, man, if you got even remotely close to them, they will snap you with those tongues like nothing else. I feel like I'm getting lucky here. I feel like I'm getting lucky here. I haven't gotten hit by an attack frog yet. This is hardly the worst section in this level with attack frogs. Thankfully, they are vulnerable to the spinning discs of doom. You learn to love that tactic, you know? Alright, so I think that's all the frogs. All the amphibians we have to worry about for now. Back to the trees. I think these might be something else. I think they're like bush roots or something like that. I don't know. You can tell that I hit them at the last minute because it looks like they're about to eat me, and then they just die at the very last second. It's hilarious. Alright, we're gonna glide over here and get the pig and get the Nork. Oh god. Oh god, now we get the Nork. The Norks can get you pretty good too, even though they're close range. But it's more so if they're in a large group together, I would argue. And I think Misty Bog has quite a few dragons to rescue as well. A surprisingly high number by Beastmaker standards.
Be on the lookout for attack frogs. They are cold-blooded killers. Attack frogs? And this used to be such a nice swamp.
Man, you know, these dragons keep talking about, oh, this was such a nice swamp. That's the second time I swear we've heard that so far. But, I mean, I'll have to take their word for it because I'm not exactly an expert on swamps. I have seen all of the Shrek movies at least once, but I think only the first, maybe the second one really mentions the swamp in a significant way. And that was really what the whole focal point of the first Shrek movie was, that Shrek just wanted to be home in his swamp in peace because I think the king or whatever in the movie tried to take ownership of the swamp or something weird like that. You know, a basic justification for why Shrek goes on the journey and everything. I'm talking way too much about Shrek right now. Okay, this is one of those rooms that's pretty bad with these attack frogs, alright? You have to worry about the Norks too, but not as much, I feel. Okay, this frog is actually very smart. An enemy that's standing near a metallic enemy will try and rebuff the flame a little bit. Okay, we're gonna knock out these two. We're gonna jump back. Flame that frog. Oh god. Okay, we're gonna flame. Oh! We're gonna flame that frog. This frog right here is the smartest frog in the entire level. Oh man. I'm gonna risk it. Charge! Yeah! Crud. Get hit by the Nork. I don't think I've gotten hit by a frog yet. I've just been getting hit by the Norks. Story of my life, right? Demon.
Thanks for releasing me. It seems like I've been trapped in here since I was your age.
Oh, no.
Why, I remember,
Gotta go.
That facial reaction from Spyro is just perfect. Yeah, it may not be as obvious, but that's another old man dragon. But it's not, yeah, it's like I said, it's not as obvious, especially in the PS1 version where the dragon looks about the same age as all the other Beastmaker dragons you were rescuing up to this point. But yeah, it's a nice little loop around there. You know, I had to show off that extra area to the side. I don't think there's a treasure chest I have to worry about. I can't remember if there's any other rooms with attack frogs to worry about. I want to say, there's going to be a room down there, but I don't think it's a frog room. I think it's a bush root room. With some Norks, of course. I mean, what room in Spyro would be complete without some Norks here and there? Whoa! Alright. I don't think you can charge into the bush roots. I wouldn't risk it. And, I mean, they're not particularly large, but I still wouldn't risk it. They are plants, clearly, so clearly they will be more vulnerable to a flame. They might be the exception to the rule of the Spyro combat system.
thank you for releasing me.
But I gotta say, the Beastmaker dragon redesigns are really creative overall. I have to give points to Toys for Bob overall with the remakes of the games. They really took some creative liberties with some of the redesigns for a lot of these character designs. It is worth noting that they are the guys that made Skylanders, which is really interesting because Skylanders at first was kind of poised to be a Spyro reboot in a way. The first Skylanders game was called Skylanders Spyro's Adventure. What kind of an implication does that give, honestly? I mean, come on. But, and then after that, they just dropped Spyro from the name. The next Skylanders game was called Skylanders Giants. Spyro was still a character until the bitter end of the Skylanders arc, I guess you could say, which lasted surprisingly like half a decade, because I think the last one was Imaginators, and that released in 2016. You know, I sampled the first game and the Giants, and I thought the games themselves were alright enough. They definitely weren't poorly made games or anything, but the whole Toys to Life thing, it was really kind of a mixed bag, you know. And when you have companies that really want to take advantage of milking the consumers and just making a new game every year, making new figures every year, it gets annoying. I was willing to give them the benefit of the doubt with the Skylanders series. Why I tried the first one, got some figures. I figured, oh, maybe they'll just do it every couple years because that makes more sense. But no, they just kept releasing new Skylanders games and new figures that may or may not have even been still relevant when you got to the new Skylanders game. It was just, that's not Spyro, you know? But of course, it never really was meant to be Spyro. It was meant to be its own thing, but they tied Spyro into it. Because, you know, Spyro is nostalgic, obviously. Kind of makes you wonder why they didn't add Crash into Skylanders right away. They took until Imaginators, where they actually made like a Crash level pack, which was actually something you could buy. You could actually buy a pack of figurines, interestingly enough. And that would count as the DLC for Skylanders, so I mean, if that's one thing you can give the Toys to Life series points for, is having quote-unquote physical DLC for the few people that actually care about that sort of thing.
I'll tell you what to do with those creatures. Smash them, Spyro! Stamp them out and squish them and squash them!
How about charge them and flame them? We are dragons, after all.
That thumbs up is just chef's kiss. They really captured, or recaptured, the energy of the original dragon from the PS1 version. Alright, so... Okay, that pig just randomly disintegrated when I was coming in. Thank you for doing my job for me, game. I mean, weird, but still. we've only got 2 levels left, one regular and one boss. Feels like I'm going through this quicker than the Magic Crafters somehow. Even though I could swear Beastmaker was overall a little bit longer than the Magic Crafters. Maybe it's just me though, I don't know. But yeah, we only got those 2 left. And we go behind here to Treetops, which it's either this or Misty Bog that some people, depending on who you ask, who or what they'll consider the worst level in Beastmaker. For different reasons. Misty Bog, it'll be because of the enemies, which I feel like I got really lucky with for the most part. But Treetops, it's the Supercharge. This is the only level in Beastmakers that uses the Supercharge. But oh boy, does it use the Supercharge, so why don't we just charge right in here, why not? Just swooping on in here. And kind of a different animation than usual. What's this? An egg thief? Couldn't be. Actually, no, they're not egg thieves. They're just regular thieves. But this time, instead of eggs, they've stolen gems. So now, you need to get them in order to get all the gems in the level. There are not too many of these. There's like 2 in this level, and I don't recall any other gem thieves throughout the rest of the game. If I'm wrong, well, I'm wrong. You know, we're fixing to find that out soon enough, I'm sure. So, Treetops is kind of a mess of a level in terms of the layout. I couldn't really tell you a definitive way to go about it in terms of the progression. I usually come here to get the key, I guess, and I usually hold on to that key for a really long time until I eventually get to the treasure chest. Indeed, we could be in this level for a good while as I try to get all of the collectibles, because as I said, this is going to be a 100% run, because I do want to show off all of the levels and that super sweet special ending, don't you know? Even though I've already done 100% playthroughs of all the Spyro games. But I don't know, I feel like for commentary it's more interesting to do 100% because any percent isn't as interesting. I really don't want to skip more levels than I have to, which might be jumping the gun a little bit here, but there's a possibility I might be skipping levels in Spyro 2. You have been forewarned if that is what I decide to do in Spyro 2. So, you know. At any rate, thankfully, before we get into the Supercharge, there is a dragon here to rescue that will give you a nice little checkpoint. So why don't we do that?
Greetings, Spyro. For an amazing tour of the treetops, don't just stop at one supercharge.
Ah.
So the supercharging in high caves tells you about supercharging and gliding. In treetops, you're gonna have to chain supercharges in ways you may not even expect. But since there's stuff to collect, we gotta focus on that first. So let's try to focus on getting all the collectibles around here first before we get into the supercharging. Alright, so we will definitely come back to that. Now, rank collectibles because, yeah, the supercharging in treetops, it's the hardest in the game. It's not the last one, but it's definitely the hardest. The supercharging that comes after this, I don't know, man. It just doesn't really compare. I gotta be honest. Like, it's probably the second hardest, the next supercharged spot I'm thinking of. There's more than one in the coming levels. But, yeah, treetops just takes the cake, honestly. And this is probably kind of a tricky glide. Probably not, though. There's the exit portal, but we are nowhere near being done with this level. So we are definitely not going to take that right away. Gotta clear out all the gems here. And there's some gems on top of there. You're probably wondering how the heck do we get there? Well, the key is going to be this whirlwind, in a sense. We also still have to worry about the treasure chest that requires the key. So I think I'm going to want to try and track that down before we get down and dirty with the supercharges. Again, if I can help it. So, I'm just going to have to go up the ramps here. Keep some of these ramps in mind, though, because sometimes supercharging will involve going up and down ramps that aren't supercharged ramps. I know, shocking, right? But yeah, we get a little glimpse into that sort of thing. Let's go back to this whirlwind over here. I think this takes us back to the beginning of Treetops, which is fine, because it kind of loops us back around on the main path in a way. We're going to go over here, and we're going to glide, and, oh, I see another gem thief. This time of the crimson variety, I think. Crimson is a shade of red, for those that don't know about this sort of thing. Which is probably fine. It's probably been a minute since you've learned about all the colors of the rainbow back at elementary school. So, you know, it's okay to forget about some of the more obscure shades of colors. Like, chartreuse, or chartreuse. No, I think it's chartreuse. I think that's a shade of green. Like the crystals, like the crystal dragons.
Spyro, if you jump at the end of a supercharge ramp, you can really go far.
I'm all over it.
Something like that is probably common sense at this point with all the supercharging you've had to do, but still a good reminder, I guess. Definitely important to keep in mind here. But yeah, I would say one of my favorite, more obscure color shades is the cyan, which is like a light blue. And by that, if you wonder if it's light blue, why not just call it light blue or call it sky blue? Because sky blue is a thing. I don't know what to tell you, man. I didn't invent the color wheel. I just call it like I see it. I don't know. I couldn't tell you the difference between cyan and sky blue just by looking at it point blank. But I'm just telling you, there is this color that's light blue, looks like blue, but it's called cyan. And I like it for multiple reasons. Now, please, for the love of God, help me to figure out the supercharge. Because now we're just all the way back here. But I'm pretty sure I've already collected everything that you can get without resorting to the supercharge for now. So, yeah, I guess let's go back here. And we're going to need to go all the way back to where the first supercharge is, which is a bit of a backtrack, unfortunately. Unless I fall off and die, maybe? I don't want to do that, though. I don't want to lose lives unnecessarily. Although there are a few games I've played where dying to respawn is actually faster than, you know, backtracking normally. Which is, it's very interesting how that turns out in those particular examples. But anyways, we're back up here. And you'll have to forgive me, like with with Wizard Peak, I'm probably going to go silent for the concentration of the supercharge until I get it right. So, commentary will resume once I finish the supercharge. Okay, we made it. Alright, so, whew, that's just an example of the supercharging that you have to do in Treetops, man. It is rough. Thankfully, these thieves are really slow. Really easy to get a hold of. That one only had a 25 gem, though. That was hardly worth it. Alright, well, let's just rescue this dragon, because good lord, that was a mess.
That was quite a ride, Spyro. You learned a lot since you were a young glider.
Yeah, well, you could have found an easier spot to get stuck.
Amen to that, man. Good lord. Well, we got all the dragons, but we still got one more spot to supercharge to. And unfortunately, I think for this one, I might have to do some backtracking. Again, sadly. Because you can't, that's how you get that from there. Oh, I think I can glide all the way. Look at this. I didn't know this. You can just glide to the other spot from here. At least I assume we have to go to this other spot. Oh boy! Alright. Alright, we go up this ramp. Oh god. Oh god. Oh wait. I think I got it. Yes. First try. Holy cow. Well, I guess that's technically the easier, quote-unquote, of the supercharges. Alright. Am I gonna pull off another spinning disc of doom? Yes, I am. Alright, well, that's cool that we could pull that off again. And we got all the gems. And look, the exit portal is right here. Oh, boy. Can we just go back to the home world? I don't want no extraneous dialogue right now. Oh, boy. But talk about a masterful supercharge, am I right? Oh, man. We still got a good chunk of the Beastmakers to clear out, too. So we're probably going to be in here for a minute before we head over to Metalhead. boss. But that's the first level where I really feel like it's a level and there's a boss. There just happens to be a boss in there. So, you know, we're fixing to do that, but we still got the rest of the Beast Maker to clear out. As I said earlier, there is a thing you can do to get a trophy or an achievement, which is weird. You don't get a skill point for it, but you do get something outside of the game for it, which is weird. Really weird how they did that. But, I could do the boss now, but we need to look for a key, and as we've seen, the key will despawn if you go into another level before you actually use the key. There's a gem over there, right in front of the balloonist for some bizarre reason. I don't really approve of that placement, but, well, it is what it is. They like to do what they do. You gotta look around for some more gems over here. There's some mushrooms that will destroy because they just happen to be there. Alright, so these gems clearly pointing the way to glide all the way over here to get the key. Alright. And then another relatively tough glide. If you fall into the swamp, it's not instant death, but depending on your positioning, it probably may as well be instant death. We still got a few more gems on the pyramid here. I assume this is a pyramid of some sort of temple. I guess it doesn't really matter too much. Go over here, get this chest. This should be it. This should be it. Alright, we're good. Got all the gems and all the dragons for Beastmaker's homeworld. That really, I think that only took like a minute or two. So now, we move on to Metalhead. Easier said than done, but let's go. Let's go. I'm a metalhead, a metalhead, a metal. Yeah, I think of that song from the Donkey Kong Country show whenever I replay this level these days. Funnily enough, that show was airing and it was new before Spyro came out originally, so who knows? Might be a coincidence, might not be a coincidence. I can't say for sure. So the interesting thing about Metalhead is that the enemies are mostly rehashed from treetops, the same two monkey-like enemies. Well, the big one is the same, but this time the smaller one is wearing metallic armor. In the PS1 version, it seemed more like they were cyborgs, though, or something like that. But here in the Reignited, it just looks like they're wearing the armor. I don't know if it's actually a part of their body this time around, but, I mean, it doesn't really matter. They're not really tougher. I mean, other than the fact that you have to charge into them. You can't destroy them with a flame like you could in treetops, but, well, I mean, that's not really a big hindrance or anything. That definitely doesn't make them severely harder to deal with. I feel like the big ones are still more difficult to deal with overall, because they can hit you when you least expect it. The small ones can be annoying, though, if you forget they're there, and they throw a banana while they're behind you, in terms of the camera. Also, they count as projectiles when they're launched by the big ones. Projectiles that you can, of course, defeat ahead of time, if you're careful, which sometimes I'm not, especially when I'm trying to concentrate on other stuff. But Metalhead is probably my favorite boss level in Spyro. There is another one that gives it some pretty good competition, but it has one or two annoying spots to it that kind of sour it a little bit. But Metalhead is definitely what I feel is the best boss level. And there's a secret area down here, huh? Check that out. But yeah, this is why this feels so much like a regular level and not really like a boss level, because there's secret nooks and crannies and whatnot. Not even Blowhard had stuff like this, you know? Not that Blowhard was a bad level or anything. Definitely, the focus of Spyro... I feel like the focus of the Spyro series in general has never really been about the bosses. Even as we progress through the games, you'll notice that the bosses are never really a huge focus. Except for, like, the main bad guy. Like, we're gonna go to Spyro 2. I don't want to spoil too much. But it's going to have a lot less bosses than the original Spyro, technically. But it's more of a quality over quantity situation. You'll just have to wait and see if you don't already know what I'm talking about. But, yeah, there was a key there that we got in that area. So there's a treasure chest that requires a key, but it's not here. We're going to have to keep an eye on it throughout the boss fight. Oh, yeah, it's one of those situations. But Metalhead's a fun fight. It's a little hard to beat him without getting hit to get the skill point. I'm gonna do my best, but if I don't get it, well, then I don't get it.
Metalhead is all charged up to meet you. Attacking the power pole should disrupt his power supply.
Gotta say, other than the dragon and Dr. Shemp, I think that's the most helpful dragon in terms of giving advice for a boss so far. So yeah, you have to destroy all of the metal poles that are giving power to Metalhead over there, the big lunking robot. And he's also tossing apes at you, if you're not careful. But here's the thing, the apes he tosses can also destroy the poles. So that can come in handy as well. If you do everything right. Oh boy. Okay, first phase done. I thought maybe he was going to try and get one last hit in on there. I think he's done that in some of my playthroughs. I don't remember if there's 400 gems here or 500. Wouldn't be surprised if it was 500. We really need to start stepping up the gem count for these boss levels, I feel. We're going to go over here. I'm pretty sure the boss won't mess with you while you're trying to go behind the waterfall. So we go through here, gems, and get the treasure chest just to get it out of the way. Give myself some peace of mind, why not? Yeah, I'm thinking this is a 500 gem level. I could try to glide through the waterfall, but something tells me that's not a very smart idea. I don't know, call it a hunch. Also, apparently he has a laser cannon now. That is never a good sign. Let's get that. Let's step back for a minute because I don't want to get hit accidentally by an enemy. Alright, patterns, here over here. Alright, let's get this one. And then, that one, barely. Oh god. Let me get this pole and that pole, and we're done. 2 phases. I think I need to get to the... Nope, we get the seal point. Alright, good. We're good. Metalhead without getting hit. Probably the hardest boss-related skill point in the game. Like I said, this level is great. Like, Beastmakers is my least favorite world, but there are still some good levels here. So I don't really feel like it hampers my experience very much, honestly. And if that's the worst you can say about a game, really think about it, about how good the game is. If the worst thing you can say is that there are some levels I like less than others. But there aren't really any overly bad levels. Not even treetops. It's just you have to learn the supercharges. But, you know, it doesn't take that long to learn the supercharges, honestly. And I will also give points to Toys R Bob. I think they made this glide here easier than what it was in the PS1 version. I feel like in the PS1 version, it might have been an oversight. Why that glide is so weird. I'm missing gems? Really? I usually don't miss gems, but apparently I did this time around. Oh, there's a 10 gem over here. Okay. I missed other gems. Wait, what? I get the feeling that these are gems from the enemies that Metalhead normally throws, and for some reason they're only just now spawning. Weird. I like to use the exit portal to leave a boss level, but I guess this will have to be one of those exceptions. Yep. Look at that. Gems from enemies. That's all I missed. That's all I missed, guys. Well, we're not too far from the exit portal, so we'll go ahead and use it. Because, I mean, Beastmakers is basically done. Alright, so with 7,700 gems and 58 dragons, which is 8 more than what's required, so kind of cutting it close there, we are able to go to the Dreamweavers.
Oh, I feel much better now that so many dragons have been rescued. Jump in the balloon, and I'll show you the Dreamweavers world. Are you ready to go?
I'm going to tell you guys right now, I'm really looking forward to Dreamweavers because, oh man, the music, the levels. Dreamweavers is the peak. And you'll be happy to know it's basically close to the end of the game, so that's a good thing. That this game just starts off solid, it just gets better and better as you go through it. Man, I love this game so much. And I can say that with confidence as I end off this part. And see you guys next time for one of the best worlds, probably in the series. Try to set your height responsibly.